Hi there, and welcome to Yoga for Shoulders. This is going to be a short practice for all levels. When you're ready, our first pose will be child's pose on our yoga mats. So we can start by sitting back on the heels. We can take our big toes together, space the knees pretty wide, and see right away that all of this is feeling pretty equal. Now, as you're sitting down here, if this is not feeling good for your knees or for your hips, because some of these areas are in injury or still developing, that's totally fine. You have blankets and pillows at home, I assume, so you can put those underneath your knees or in between the different layers of your legs, anything to provide comfort and relief so that your attention is free to pay attention to the main stars of the show for today's practice, which are the shoulders. So once you find yourself nice and comfortable, keep the tailbone circularizing down to the heels and start to walk the rest of your spine forward. A little penguin all the way out. Spread the fingers nice and wide, shoulder width distance apart. And this is really to feel our arms in the overhead position. So taking the forehead down, let's rest the weight more towards the hairline rather than more towards the eyes. And that kind of completes this nice rainbow arc of energy from the head through the back body down to the tailbone. Now, at the same time here, ground down through the base knuckle of all four of those fingers. Ground down through the heel of the palm. Lift the elbows. Use your hands to push the floor away from you. And as you do that, you'll feel that there's traction gaining in the spine. You may even do it so much that you lift your forehead and actually take it an inch forward on the yoga mat. Now we want to feel here, triceps are a really big muscle in yoga. What we're trying to do here for the shoulder is restore all of our range of motion. It's a ball and socket joint, so it has a lot of different possibilities. And most of the time, we let our arms round forward of our body. So right away here, we're giving ourselves the opportunity to open through the front chest and armpit, which probably doesn't happen all that too often. We're actually working our triceps in a different way than we do when we let the arms round forward. So those triceps are responsible for straightening your arms. You can feel them engage if you push your hands down and forward and try to lengthen your arms out even more. You're going to feel them kind of start quivering or shaking on the arm bone. Now, these are the muscles. You can even feel them if you want. You can lift one hand up and feel on the other side. We want to take these muscles and have them flow from the shoulder side towards the elbow. That's where you get all of that length. And now really from the pelvis all the way through the hands, we're already in downward facing dog pose. So we'll take that one next. Let's go ahead, keep the spine in a long line of energy as you root into your shins and lift forward for tabletop position. Root down through your fingers more than through your wrists. Tuck the toes under, lift up and back, downward facing dog. You can have your knees bent because really here we're trying to experience the shoulders. So the shoulder bones lift skyward as the heart presses down. Those are kind of like opposite actions a little bit. I kind of tend to go back and forth with that, like shoulder bones lift and then heart melt, and shoulder bones lift and heart melt. Now, not only do the triceps move from the shoulders to the elbows, they also want to wrap in. So if your elbows were going to bend, you can kind of bend them a little bit. Which direction are they pointing? We want to get them to start bending more towards the back of the yoga mat rather than out towards the sides. So that means that the arm bones are in external rotation, which is the opposite rotation that they spend most of their days in, probably for most of us. Let the eyes soften in the skull. Let the skull soften completely so that as the shoulders start to work, to open, to realign, restore their range of motion, nothing's getting kinked in the neck. Now, whatever feels more advised for you, you can walk the feet forward to the hands or the hands backward to the feet, or a little combination. We'll meet in the next pose in our standing forward bend Uttanasana. In this one, the feet can be hip width apart. They could also be wider apart if you're a little bit tighter there. And as we let the upper body dangle over the lower body, we can clasp hands, or not hands. I mean, you can clasp hands, but you could also clasp elbows. And if elbows are a little bit, I got hair in my mouth, too much, then grab somewhere along the forearms. So we want our legs to be really strong here so that they're a good base of support for us as we do this next bit, as we lift the belly to the spine and wave the heart forward. And as that happens, we're going to lengthen these sweet arm bones alongside the ear. So we're really being lengthened out of the sweet pelvis here. And layer it back down, but keep those arm bones in line with the ears. You may find that you got a little bit more space in the spine. A little bit more relief through those shoulder bones. Release the hands down to the floor. Next inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands onto the hips. Let's come all the way up. We can take the hands onto the waist here with the thumbs toward each other on the back. So you can start to feel the heart open. Skull lifting right on top of the shoulders. And then releasing the arms down, maybe we can kind of swim the shoulders in some circles, up and back one at a time. You can even take the elbows in. And this is the motion that starts the capability of one day us being able to clasp hands behind the back. You can fold your chin down to your chest. That can give you some clearance. And then grabbing the hands, if that's not advised, you can grab a hand towel or just onto your waist here. But the point is that the upper arm bones now squeeze toward each other, shoulder blades squeeze toward each other so that the front chest opens, the skull uprights itself, and we're trying to get the pelvis to stay neutral here. So sometimes when our shoulders are not as developed in their range of motion, our body will still let us do the same shape, but it will adjust and tinker with other bones in order to make it happen. So we want the rest of our bone set to be pretty neutral here. Sometimes I like to bend and straighten my legs so that I can even feel, how is my pelvis? Is it tilting forward or backward, to the side? Those are also ball and socket joints down there. And if this feels advised from here, nice big inhale breath, fill up even the back of the lungs. And exhale, forward fold over the legs. You can take your bound clasp to the sky and overhead. Soft through the face, soft through the eyes. Let the eyes even be still in the skull, even if the skull moves through space. This is part of our process of getting an open body. And really, an open body just means that we relieve the body of the sense of me. The sense of me is what creates all of our problems in life, all of our suffering. And that sense of me isn't here. We still experience our body. We still experience our mind, thoughts, and all of that stuff. But what is replaced with the sense of me is this sense of universality, that the body is now part of the world, that the mind is part of the world, that nothing is actually truly separate. And because nothing is truly separate, happiness is the only thing that remains. Okay, to release the hands, I like to take them back to the low back, and then sprinkle the fingertips all the way down to the ground. Grounding them down, step the feet back one at a time, downward facing dog pose. From here, soften down to the knees. And we'll actually set for dolphin pose. Layer the elbows down right underneath the shoulders. actually a little bit more in, because it's only natural that they're going to splay out. So you want them to splay out then into the natural shoulder width distance position. And because I know that the elbows are going to splay out, I'm also going to step my hands just a little bit outside the elbows. So elbows ever so slightly in, layer them down the center of the elbow bone, hands clasp, looking forward, tuck toes, lift high and up, downward, or not downward facing dog, dolphin pose. Root down through the forearms, take your triceps from the shoulders down to the elbows, let them flow that way, and get nice and lifted through those shoulder bones. Now this can be quite intense, so what we're trying to do here is offer the sensations, whatever sensations they are, offer those to the space in which they appear, the space that is not attached, it's not identified with those sensations, it doesn't share those qualities of those sensations. So even if something is really dramatic, it still exists in a space that is calm, that's open, that's universal, that's, giving that personal sense of me to the universal sense of me. Beautiful. Let's drop down to the knees. Come to a seat. Now, any seated position will do. And it's very important that since we're working with the shoulders, which are very far away from the floor here, we want to make sure that everything that's supported on the floor is supported in a nice neutral position. So if you cannot get your pelvis neutral, if you're tight and you're still developing your legs and your spine, your pelvis is going to be kind of tucked under. I would invite you then to sit up on a chair, on a fireplace bench, even on some props or something, so you can start to feel that the pelvis, sitting bones ground down evenly, and that when the pelvis and the legs ground, you get a natural sense of uprightness. Chest forward of the arms. And here is where we'll take the last bit of our practice. I think we've done a really good job of exposing the arms to the arm overhead position, opening this whole area, getting some more space in the front body. So now we want to restore all of those different ranges of motion with the arms, okay? So from here, let's lengthen the left arm out. And we want to particularly pay attention to how this joint is set right up at the shoulder, because we want this to be a release, a position where we feel freedom, not a position where we feel constraint. And so you may notice, notice that your arm can rotate, and rotate it right at the shoulder joint, right? Play around with that. This is a whole range of motion. This should all be pretty pain-free in a joint that has full range of motion. You can roll it all the way forward. That's internal rotation. That's what you have to do in order to get your hand behind your back. Okay, and then you have neutral and external rotation, which is what you use for all of your side planks and warrior twos. And so that's actually the position that we want to strengthen here, is the palm facing up version, where this arm, sometimes I even take my other one and I help it, and I'm like, is this as externally rotated as it can be? Ah, yes, okay. Now, soften the shoulder shrugging muscles. If there's anything here in this neck here, grabbing, you can kind of take your fingers in there, you can give yourself a little love. But what we want to teach ourselves to do is to hold this arm out to the side position using more of these muscles back here on the back side of the body, underneath that joint, more for support. And then let's take the hand to the shoulder, and we'll just touch in and out like that a couple of times. So just some light therapeutic moves here, deep breathing, open body, open face, so that you're open to whatever sensations arise. Those sensations, let's release that. The sensations are not us. They're just something we're experiencing. And so yoga is this wonderful tool that helps us discern what we're experiencing from the one who actually experiences. The one who experiences is happy always. It's when we get caught up and we think that oh, I am the sensation, I am the thought. That's what leads us into trouble. Okay, let's take the other side here. So we take the right arm out now, straight from the side body. And we want to get nice and lifted here so that everything feels very neutral, very appropriate. And then we can play around with the range of motion of this right arm. So we can rotate it all the way back and rotate it all the way forward. And we're doing it right up here at the head of the arm bone joint. We just go back and forward a little bit. Now, as we do this, we want the chest to be nice and open here, right? We want the skull to be sitting up and back over the shoulders because this is what we're restoring. I imagine most of us probably spent most of the day with the head sitting forward of the chest. So this is giving ourselves the opportunity to open up that joint and kind of restore some of that neutrality. Okay, so roll it all the way open. That's what we want here. We're just going to give it a little bit of time to start burning and tingling and feeling those sensations, and then offering those sensations to the space. And then 3 shoulder taps. In, out, in, out, in, out, and down. Okay, there's a couple of more that I'd love for us to do before we call it a day. Let's interlock the hands, press them forward. At the same time, slide the ends of the arm bones back. That'll keep the chest nice and open. Notice now doing that, did you kind of slump down? Open the chest, lift the skull, and pressing out through the pointer fingers on both sides. Let's take the arms more towards the overhead position. Whew. Now keep the navel drawing back and up through the chamber of the ribs. That can be the most challenging part because that's requiring the pelvis to stay intact. That's requiring this movement to truly come from the rib cage and from the shoulders. So keep rooting down through the pelvis, through the legs. You can even look up if you want. Beautiful. Take it down. So you love it when your online teachers say beautiful, like they can see what you're doing. All right, one more. This, we want to stretch out these sweet triceps of ours. So go ahead, we'll start the right side. Take your right hand and take it to the back of your neck. Take your left hand and we're gonna roll that right elbow in, okay? I'll do it again. So normally it's like out to the side, right? We're gonna roll that right elbow in. It's actually externally rotating the arm. That maybe sounds counterintuitive. It took me a long time to learn that. Keep that right hand on that right shoulder blade, reaching down the back. Keep the side waist lifting. You can take that left hand for support on the right elbow over your head. And keep pulling the elbow tip higher and back and in towards the ear. At the same time, drop that left shoulder down. Keep the eyes soft. Keep the eyes steady as you reach the arms up. Keep the eyes steady as you reach the arms down. Last side. Left arm can reach up, the hand can reach to the back of the neck. Take the right hand, we're gonna help guide the elbow into the face, back in space. Whoop, there's the trigger. Okay, then it grabs onto the elbow and we help ourselves out. Sometimes I even bow my chin here because that can help me get some more clearance in that shoulder space. Sometimes the skull is like, oh my gosh, there's so many things in the way. Once you have it though, bring the skull back up. Beautiful job. Okay, drop the hands. Maybe now just to the lap. Elbows can now go right underneath the shoulders. Take the elbows into the side. We know that triceps now flow down to the elbows, and that can help upright the chest even. Now keep the face really soft here, because now we're emerging back into our days. So softness through the face, softness through the eyes. If you want, you can even close them for the last few moments. Thank you so much for joining in today's practice. Have a wonderful day.